Welcome to the world of Creatures 1. What we're looking at right here is Albia, the name of the world for Creatures 1, and for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to play this game, this is an artificial life simulation that's quite unique in that a lot of simulations and pet simulations, especially in this genre, really have scripted behaviors and hard-coded behaviors and all these things that are at play in the background that kind of define what the living beings actually have to do. Where with creatures, there's actually a biological and neurological network which allows the creatures to interact with their environment based on stimuli, and there's also a DNA and genetic base in the background. So it's a pretty complex game, even though it looks pretty simple on the surface. There's actual learning and evolution which can take place here. What I wanted to do is to just kind of give a brief tour of the world of Albia. I think it really deserves a lot of attention. One thing that a lot of people may not know is this world was actually created with real models that were created in the real world. So it's kind of a unique graphical experience, even though this game was created in the 90s, which is pretty ancient in today's standards. It really has a nice, warm, inviting feeling, and as we go through the world, I think you'll find that it's kind of pretty enjoyable, at least to me and the community at large. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the hand, which we're going to see pop in here. This is the player's representation in the world. So we can interact with this world if we want to in any way we want. We can push the ball here so that it'll bounce. We can pick up a piece of cheese and move it about the world if we want to. And, you know, there's a lot of different ways that we can interact with this world. So one thing that I want to start off with, this is the incubator, and this is kind of where everything begins. The main species, known as norns, they start off their lives in eggs. So you'll be able to pop an egg in here, the incubator will start right up, and you'll be on your way. But what we're doing here is no Norns, no Grendels in this world, just kind of nice. You get a little breather because, as those of you who have played know, these things can be a little crazy. So this is the incubator. Again, remember where that is. That's always going to be important to you. Another important area here is the learning computer right here. And what this does is it teaches various verbs to anybody within the vicinity who's going to be hearing it. You can interact with the Norns, you can tickle them, you can slap them, but we can also interact with them. So if we wanted to say something to them, we can type in whatever we want and off we go. Now they do have a very limited vocabulary, but they do have the ability to communicate with us. So we definitely want to make sure we can go through this, and there's, you know, push, pull, stop, drop, no roll. There's no fire here, but it's pretty interesting to see them kind of go through the learning process. You'll also notice some of the food sources are located around here. We've got the cheese right here, delicious. We've also got a little honey pot on the table down here, and going along with the honey, if we visit right up here, you'll notice beehives. And what this is an unlimited supply of honey. You'll notice as you go throughout the game, Norns will eat up all the honey in each jar, and an empty one will be on its side. This is a full one, obviously, so we can't do anything with it, but say if it was on its side, we just bring it over here, plop it down, and it'd be filled right back up. So that's kind of a nice feature. Just remember where those beehives are, because you're going to be needing them. We can also see a couple of the toys in the world around here. Again, the ball, which we can bounce around again, and another one located over here, the spinning top, both of which are great entertainment for Norns who really need something to go off of. And believe me, they do get bored. They have need for pleasure and all this type of stuff, so they need some stuff to keep them occupied. Another thing here, we can see a coffee pot, an unlimited supply of caffeine. Pretty good, although Norns definitely should get some sleep from time to time. Another thing we'll see here is, oh, there it goes, the cable car, which is going to travel across the world. That's one of the vehicles around here. We also have a teleporter located right here, which if we click it, any creatures within the area right in here will be transported over to the garden, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. One thing that Creatures 1 is a little limited in terms of its scrollability, in that you don't have an unlimited way to move about the world from the beginning or from an official download. In Creatures 2 and Creatures 3 and Docking Station, there's ways to move about the world that make it pretty simple to get everywhere you need to. In Creatures 1, it does offer favorite places, which is a great feature where it kind of creates bookmarks around different parts of the world that you can set up. I've gone ahead for the sake of time of setting this up already, but please leave a comment. Let me know if you'd like a tutorial on how to set up favorite places. It's probably maybe 5 minutes, so it's a great way to set it up, but I've just cut it out here just for the sake of time. So what we're going to do, I'm going to head off screen for a second, and we're going to move to the next area, which I like to call the garden. So we can see, here's the cable car again, moving back in the other direction. You can take a look and see it'll land up here, kind of in the treehouse little area, and we'll see where that goes in a minute. But if we move back down to the main level, we can kind of see this scary pumpkin head scarecrow guy. He was in the last screen, so this is pretty close to the incubator. Here's some more food sources. We have carrots growing in the garden, the teleporter that is from the learning area with the computer. Here's some lemons growing on a trellis, very popular. These two food sources, the carrots and the lemons, will actually replenish themselves if they've been eaten up, which is pretty nice. And then we get into the first area that poses some dangers to Norns. We have 2 weeds or bad plants. This is baobab, and right over here is pyrethrum. They are bad, they will cause some bad reactions, but they're not too dangerous. They're very useful for young Norns to learn that weeds are not a good idea to eat. The classification system in Creatures 1 doesn't allow Norns to distinguish between different types of items in the same group. If we use food as an example, there's no way for them to tell the difference between lemons, honey, and carrots. They just collectively know this as food. So the same thing goes for weeds. So if they kind of get a taste of a not so dangerous one early on, there's a good chance that they won't ingest some of the more lethal types later on down the line. Now mixed in here, there's also some herbs or good plants. We have feverfew featured right here. And if we jump over here, this is gentian. These two, again, are herbs. They'll provide some benefits. And again, this kind of works in the same way as weeds, except rather than deterring Norns from eating these, they'll actually want to eat these. It really gives them a little bit of a boost. And they'll kind of get the idea that eating these things, pretty good idea. So hopefully they'll kind of get some good eating habits along the line. So that's pretty much a little area in here. We can also see underneath, which I didn't cover, you'll see an underground cart going back and forth. This is just the underground area where we have one side located here and the other underneath the incubator. So what we're going to do is move on to the next area, which I like to call the temple area, mainly because right in here it kind of looks like a ruined temple, although it's not exactly a serious location. It's got a music player in here which plays a nice tune every now and then if you want it to. There's also this little green can is hooch, which is kind of the equivalent of alcohol here in Albia. It's not as dangerous as it is in our world, the real world, but it does have some effects. So young Norns can have this, but I tend to keep it away just because they can get a little, they can stagger about a little bit and have some bad effects. So the temple area down here in the main region, we have the lifts, which you may have seen a couple already. We can kind of move them around using the buttons. They travel up and down. Norns love to ride these things for hours on end. Maybe not hours, but they'll go up and down this a lot, and it's kind of funny to watch, although it can be kind of frustrating when you want them to eat or sleep. Or take care of themselves for that matter. So here's another toy down here, which is actually classified as a big toy, or I call it a gadget, just because it's in a different group of toys or group of items. So we move along, there's a little herb right here, or good plant. This is morning glory, which kind of acts like natural caffeine. If somebody's tired or sleepy, if they ingest this, they're going to kind of wake right up. So for those Norns that are really not going to get to sleep, this kind of helps out in alleviating that need. So that's kind of this area. Again, there's not too much over here to see. We can see up here there's a little bridge that's going to go over to our next area, as well as the main region down in here. And this is kind of getting us over into the jungle and the dock.